start? Did it start? Did it? Yeah, okay. Music. There it is. Uh, Play. Okay. There we go. We have literally everything at least for today. I, I kinda feel weird in the throat still, but anyways, I guess here we are at the very least, so understandable. I will say. Uh, yeah, I should be changing this one thing. Funky. There it is. Amazing. Quality work, even. Anyways, what a what a crazy thing to hear. Wow. I don't know. Uh, yeah, I certainly don't know. I guess it's just like a coincidence or something like that that we can finally be here to this in a row. It feels quite nice after all to have the possibility of being here indeed. You wouldn't even expect that. I guess I don't at the very least, so it is quite nice to have that chance, but expectations are weird to some degree. I I mean after all also it kind of happens that if I expect something to happen or not, I end up kind of being betrayed by those very same expectations later on, and it kind of becomes meaningless to have so much. Yeah, one side so much of an expectation, but I don't know what I guess at the very least to fulfill. Uh, I don't like the word your role, but to kind of that to fulfill what you need to do is fine, I guess. It's already good enough to a certain degree. But yeah, anyways, uh, yeah, I am kind of worried. I mean, I shouldn't be saying that it doesn't happen. I feel like it might be a problem if I don't know out of nowhere I feel too much of a taste of blood in my mouth. It will certainly be a problem, but so far it doesn't feel that bad. I mean, it simply didn't get better, or as much as I expected it to get better compared to yesterday. Like, I had a faster recuperations from being sick. I guess not like this. That it was so weird to see how much it lasted. I didn't even expect that to be working that way. Let's say, uh, but yeah, that's part of being sick that you never know when you are really. And I was even thinking about it. You don't even know when you are fully recovered until you are fully recovered. In fact, like it will take a while to be fully well, and I won't have the possibility of recognizing that until I am fully healed, I guess. But anyways, it's just like part of the process and such. It takes time as always, so nothing to really do there. Simply to cultivate patience and to be capable of waiting how much it is that it requires to a certain extent. But yeah, very good, I guess. And also, yeah, I do have quite a turmoil of ideas. I simply wanted to talk like yesterday, today, tomorrow, probably. But I do have quite a huge amount of things that I wish to talk about, and in no particular order. To a certain extent, I kind of feel like even forcing it to be in an order makes it worse, or something like that. It is the spontaneity, as they will say, of speaking about whatever, what makes it good. So, I don't know. Anyways, at least here we are, so it doesn't feel that bad, I guess. But I never thought about it. I kind of have. It has nothing to do with what I was talking about before, but I never thought about it. I do have the voice as if I were a consistent smoker now. Like, I didn't really wish for that to happen. I didn't really want that to happen, but here we are. And it sounds like that. It has that note, those sides of the spectrum where you feel like it isn't simply wow, this person is forcing it. Is more like they are probably tasting blood whenever they talk. That the degree of tones of raspiness, I guess. I didn't want that, but I didn't want it. I didn't consciously search for that. I didn't get sick expecting that, but anyways, I guess here we are still. So you accept to live with something like that. I mean, yeah, I didn't even think we were going to be here today. So that's already an improvement, I guess. Also, the PC is getting even worse. Today I was kind of capable of holding together the stream. Today it is quite intensely crashing, and I don't know why exactly. I wish I had the possibility of choosing or, yeah, understanding why, but there is no reason whatsoever so far to guess why. The, yeah, I don't know why. I simply believe in audio. If the audio works, then we are fine. Everything else is kind of subsidiary to the audio to that extent. It certainly isn't that important what happens on video. After all, I really do nothing. At least today, I don't have anything particularly planned in that sense to say, wow, there isn't an incredibly smooth experience for me. I am going to get angry because of that, and I don't care. I really don't care. But well, part of the process is not caring. I guess I don't know. Uh, Excuses. Anyways, what time is it? Aha! I knew it. Well, rain time. So, I also wanted to check. Let me see that. Yeah, I kind of timed that quite well with the ads and all of that. I simply wanted to have it timed so that when the timer is done, is when the ads themselves are done. And it seems so far I kind of achieved that. It seems, I don't know. It looks like, I guess. But yeah, uh, good morning, good evening, and good night, as one would say. As always, hi people, here we are, yet another day, another morning in my case, as always, being here. Also, wait, because I know I will keep forgetting about this, so it really has nothing to do with anything else. I simply wanted to have it on, let's say, and to have the possibility of, yeah, if I had to really search for an excuse or something like that, it will be along the lines of I wanted to say that I had this one thing open, and people didn't make use of that. So is it really my fault that it didn't happen or something like that? And yeah, anyways, I guess we will see how I can manage to, if we can even manage to get this going, how I am going to manage to deal with this one thing that it is the next, or yeah, one of the first challenges in quite a long time. I guess I never truly thought about them before in any serious way. I mean, after all, it kind of feels weird even. I I never truly saw them as something fully, yeah, fully appealing. Let's say there are very few stakes at a risk or anything like that. It is more like we are simply going to delay something that is going to happen most of the time. There are no real results or fucking god. Why are my dogs up so early, man? What? Oh my god. Anyways, as I was trying to say, uh, what an incredibly annoying though when they want to be. Anyways, uh, it feels kind of weird to have the, yeah, the community polls and all of that or challenges. It isn't really a challenge, it is more like it will happen no matter what, but freedom, the illusion of freedom, I guess, I don't know. I mean, I guess the temptation of having something like that is quite interesting always, and is quite, let's say, fulfilling in that sense, and always nice to nice to have. I would even say, but yeah, um, nice. Anyways, simply nice. Uh, yeah, I don't know. Here we, as I was trying to say before I activated the challenge, I remember that I had to do that. Here we are. As always, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for lurking. Thanks for watching the world and all of that. It is my utmost pleasure to be here. We will see how we do exactly today. I don't really expect to have problems in the sense of I don't. I hope my voice doesn't die. Uh, I certainly had the expectation that it was going to be working a little bit better today, at the very least, but it isn't. That is not fully kind of concerning, I guess. But yeah, uh, here we are. No matter what, here we are. So yeah, uh, quite a nice thing, I will say. And I don't know. Sometimes, as I was trying to say before, sometimes it is quite hard to really choose any one thing to talk about. But I think it ends up being a problem of like the illusion of believing that what might be talking about might be of a lesser quality if you were to properly organize what your ideas are. Something like that. I don't know exactly which fallacy would it be that affects this process, this way of thinking of things. It is like attributing too much power, I guess, to the creativity and all of that, when in reality what matters the most isn't really the act of being incredibly creative or whatever it is, more like, can you simply decide something at all and be capable of choosing something that you yourself can find interesting to talk about? Mostly, like, it shouldn't be that hard on one hand, on the other, even if it is hard, it shouldn't be that complicated for you to willingly decide which things will be that you get to. enjoy talking about and whatnot. But I don't know, I guess it simply is a matter of when you learn that the possibility of talking about an infinite amount of things is open, you also realize that maybe trying to choose only one is kind of hard. Not because it certainly has not been chosen as a proper topic, but rather because what you can choose might not be the best thing to talk about. And it is always better to have that opportunity open until the very last second, let's say, in order to, yeah, to pick something better, something more accurate and whatnot, something always more, more proper for the place and time, and always also, I would even say, if it were to happen that not only you is it who is making that decision, to open up the possibility not only to yourself and your own judgment, but also to the added judgment of those who will come later on, makes it even more interesting because after all it is quite a good thing to have the possibility of hearing somebody speak truly with confidence about things when everybody is interested and is on the same line, let's say. So it ends up being a very attractive idea that of, yeah, you can not decide what you're going to talk about until the very last second because after all there is always a possibility, but I guess that is so far not really out of the ordinary. It is simply my way of seeing it. There really will be something along the lines of certainly being so organized and apps piling up on you, and always that problem of if you can't even choose something that feels good and feels worth of your time when you are doing it, before you are doing that thing, let's say, and you can only push yourself to choose at the very last second, you might as well be kind of, let's say, choosing something that will negatively influence you. Not because it certainly is negative, but rather because it just has the nature of perhaps you chose something that you didn't really wish to do, just because you didn't want to deal with the pain or with the anxiety of not having chosen anymore. So being so overly confident of the necessity of living, let's say, every day like it is going to be the last one, in that sense of, yeah, I shouldn't have any particular list after all. Whichever thing I choose is going to be the most interesting one. Might as well lead towards those conclusions. Not simply conclusions, it is more like those realizations of perhaps, perhaps at the very least, I today failed to choose something worth it. And the anxiety itself that it is created upon you when once you normalize such thing, and even more the the problematic thing that ends up being to truly give up so much of your agency over things just because you think it can be somehow good to not even pay attention to what you're doing or something like that is quite an, yeah, quite not simply neglectable or negative, it is more like, yeah, I think I don't have any other better word than to use idiotic in that sense. It certainly is bad, gravely bad, to believe that what you're going to choose always is going to be the best thing when you are forced to choose instead of having the pleasure of choosing with enough time and with enough anticipation and such. But yeah, kind of a weird thing after all. Nobody really wishes to be so conscious of their problems in the sense of nobody is so willing to take so many risks before even knowing what is going to happen, because there is also that side of when you start to think so much in the future, you always have that lurking idea of perhaps what I choose is not going to be the best outcome because I am not taking into consideration the possible differences that will exist in the future unavoidably because of the situations that do happen only at that present time and that I can't be aware of, no matter how hard I try right now, because in simple terms, I don't live in the future and I can't know what has already happened in the future to be capable of understanding all of that. I guess. Um, Also, yeah, quite nice to also see you around, son. I guess to a certain extent quite bad from my side to see that my voice is so weird, but besides that, quite a pleasure to be here as always. And yeah, as I will say, enjoy your lurking, son. Thank you for being here. No, no problem. I was also going to say, what problem? I guess so. But yeah, very nice. I was, just in case, a quick rundown, I guess, will be something along the lines of, yes, simply considering stuff, having a short dialogue about the nature of not choosing to act beforehand and always living, let's say, the moment. Because it is kind of weird to see that it is so normal for everybody to live like that. But yeah, as I was saying, uh, it feels kind of weird even to realize not only that you have that side of you are dealing with things that, let's say, are outside of your control and are outside of what you can truly do when you look into the future, but also, even right now, you never know if what you're truly doing is the best thing possible because only once the present has passed it is that you can judge what was the best outcome possible to take, let's say, with complete evidence presented, yeah, with a complete case of evidence presented to you instead of what happened in any other way in which you barely got to discover what might have been an interesting fact or something like that, I guess. But yeah, it always is weird to consider those things. I feel like because it never gets. I mean, as always, as I said commonly here, not that it never in the whole history of humanity, but rather it is a discussion that is worth having with other people always, because it is not mostly that I find it to be a problem only on me. I wish it was only a problem on me, and nobody else has to deal with the problem of being paralyzed by not even knowing which kind of options do you have, and if those options that you chose were the correct ones or not. And all of that always feels quite strange, I guess. All of that is always a concern or yeah, to a degree, something that you have in mind and that you keep thinking about as something quite bothersome because the best part of that idea is you know truly find out which side is truly the fully correct one. I guess that is kind of the nature of being alive. That somehow it makes sense to have so many possibilities. So so many different ways in which life can unfold, let's say, and it makes sense that you can choose whatever you want to, and you shouldn't really worry about if you chose the best one or not. Simply enjoy having the possibility of choosing something along those lines. And it feels so weird because it is like on one hand, the overconfidence on the freedom that is given to everybody to choose, while on the other, very few people can even say that they enjoy something minimally close to that. It isn't even like, oh yeah, I am truly capable of enjoying being alive or whatever. No, very few people can say that they truly enjoy doing what they do or working for what they work and such, and so on and so forth, as they will say. And it simply is always a strange consideration to make when you try to think about those people as somebody who is happy or somebody who is content with their life. I guess to a certain extent, you might say that they are content, but rather, I always think about it that way. Is it really being content when you are having so many troubles? Fully picturing what do you truly possess the capacity of altering, let's say, because it is quite simple to simply go on and state something along the lines of, ah, yeah, I have no problem whatsoever, but by deciding what I want to do, let's say, and what I wish to do, but at the same time, what I truly can do is not fully revealed to me because I never am acting based on those desires. I simply am doing what seemed to be the best of my interest based on something quite simple like a drive or an impulse that came not truly from a place of worrisomeness, let's say, but rather just from a side of, yeah, I I must fulfill this created, this made up necessity that I have about something that if I were to truly stop and think about it, I don't really need. And it always is weird to see how normalized all of that is. On one hand, as I say, because it isn't like the whole idea is strange. I think very few things are fully strange about themselves. Like what I said the other day, I don't think there are that many things that are truly hard fully by themselves. The way in which you picture things certainly makes them look more like that, but there are very few things of a truly complicated or weird or unsettling nature or whatever is it that you wish to point them out as, besides simple, I guess. But yeah, it ends up being quite annoying to deal with all of that. Or to say that you deal with all of that without really dealing with any of those things. It is like there is always this interest in, I don't know, is it worrying? Is it not worrying? Is it like just observing the world, just being a part of what happens around you and what might be the people that you can be with? I I don't really get it. I mean, it always is quite, yeah. What I can say to that extent is it always is wonderful to hear somebody else's opinion on all of that because it is from their conclusions that I can make mine to a certain extent. Because what they have the possibility of understanding is 10 times better than what I can understand. Not because I don't believe I have the possibility of making sense out of what is the world, but rather these subjectivities that affect other people are always worth considering and can always lead to so many different ways that not only their perspective is theirs, let's say, it also opens up the chance of realizing what is that makes up your own view on stuff and your own way of picturing things, your own mind or whatever. So it ends up being quite nice in this case to have the chance of hearing somebody else say, yeah, things seem to be going badly or goodly because it is based on that to a certain extent even I will go as far as to without even humans, it is always a precious opportunity to hear what others have to say in that extent because most of the time there is this principle of if you are truly confronted with decisions that you are not so sure which one you want to choose about from a plethora of paths, let's say, or choices, obviously, you you're going to be given the opportunity of also living up to the complete randomness of life, what you wish to do, let's say, and what you are trying to accomplish without ever truly realizing that the moment in which the most common thing between two choices, if you throw a coin, the moment in which you throw the coin, in your mind, you're already making up every single kind of asserment towards which one of the two options you truly wish to take most. Even if you said until the very last second that the coin was flipped that you never wished for anything, only once you flip the coin you can come to terms with your decisions because being met with a degree of yeah a degree of uncontrollableness, let's say, makes it an easier task for everybody to realize that we quite enjoy the freedom that we have, and in that sense it is quite understandable that everybody will enjoy having the possibility of choosing what they are going to deal in their lives and such. And I don't know, it always is weird, as I said before, to consider all of those things because you end up later on then finding out that maybe people are not even capable of realizing how many times they are throwing at a random how things are going to go and how their lives are going to be driven, let's say, and it isn't because they are not doing enough randomness, quite the opposite even. There is also a point in which you can hear that inner voice that arises from within you, let's say, once you throw the coin, and that tells you which one of the two options you truly wish to take. You can hear that or you can ignore it in order to just go with the option that was given to you so that you have no need to feel guilty over your actions because at the end of the day, at the very least in your vision, they weren't truly your actions. Is it really your problem if out of nowhere, once you are trying to take a trip, you learn that when you got off the airplane, somebody swapped your case with somebody's, not with somebody else, with a fake one that contained the most obvious exaggerated example always, with some with a case that contained bombs inside of it. Are you really going to feel bad if it happens that it detonates? Are you really going to have that guilt living inside of you? After all, it wasn't really your fault that somebody swapped what was yours, and it wasn't really your responsibility to even check or to be so into the question of why out of nowhere your case seemed to be a little bit heavier. So why will you worry now? What will be the point of worrying now? It, after all, it was just a random targeting that they made. You really had no capacity of choosing. And all of those things are always the ways in which people keeps telling themselves that it is fine to take no agency over what they are, who they are, what they are doing. All of those things are I guess unavoidably it feels weird because you find out how many people truly act that way that shouldn't be acting that way, let's say, and not because they shouldn't be acting that way, but rather because you can do whatever you want in life, but later on you truly are going to complain. Like, it makes sense for you to, once you have given up so much freedom over your existence, you're going to complain that you don't have it. And the worst thing is not that you have given up freedom from here on out, let's say, like you live in 1984, I think it is the book. Uh, Not that you live in such a dystopian future. It simply happens that you decided out of nowhere, yeah, you know what? I don't need to deal with a problem, with the boredomness of being somewhere doing something quite a little bit less uh, intriguing or impactful. I will simply keep on going, doing my most basic degree of life, and with that I will be fine. And I don't know, it always is shocking to see people believing that they have so many possibilities over choosing. Not simply choosing, but rather, as I am saying, in the final degree of choosing to complain. Is it truly a sensible thing to be complaining so much? A lot of people don't even realize how many possibilities they have over changing their situations. And I mean, I I I try to say it from a real place of realization because in my case I remember and even here probably I have already complained quite a lot of times already about how annoying it is to be confronted with the realization itself of, to begin with, people seems to be not even motivated towards helping others and how easy it is. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that you yourself don't have the necessity of acting upon what you know. Like, it is perfectly fine to have problems. It is perfectly fine to have those flaws, and it is okay to exist in such a world. It doesn't mean that you need to comply to those problems. And even more, if you can realize what are those problems, it doesn't mean that if you see something bad in those who decide to not help others, you need to also not help anyone. We are not talking. Most people are not going to find themselves against problems that are so directly against their lives, let's say, that they are going to be confronted with the worst type of decision ever of maybe what you wish to accomplish, what you are trying to accomplish, is going to be so extremely hard, so extremely complex by itself to accomplish that if you were to by yourself change the way in which you act, you're going to get punished. I don't think it happens like that. I don't think it happens like that. Most people simply believe that there is going to be an oppressor coming towards them because it feels good to give up before even starting, and that is the most constant narrative that always happens in people, that you hear them say, yeah, I didn't even try it. After all, I knew I was going to fail because everybody else failed. Like, okay, I guess so. If it makes sense for you, if it is helpful for you to be so negative, I guess you can keep up that attitude, but certainly that is not only not the reality, probably everybody knows that you are lying and that what you are postulating as the truth is being incredibly tainted, and it means almost nothing to act like that. So, thank you for lying, but it shouldn't be taken as the complete reality in any degree, and that is what makes it so interesting to find out people that act in such ways and who believes it is normal to keep it all up. And yeah, to see how much, once again, I had already mentioned this, at the very least today, multiple times, this narrative of it is necessary to be this one way ends up being validated. I don't know if it is something good to almost worship like that. I wouldn't say, at the very least myself, that it is good, but I get it, I guess. I can minimally get what is their point. But yeah, I don't know. I never truly know. But yeah, let me, anyways, before continuing, let me drink some water. That's what I know. I can feel I'm already with it. So let me drink water. Also, yeah, good day or good night, Caspian. You got yet yet another day here. More most rarely with some consistency. Here we are, and yeah, a hug to you also. Hydration check. Yeah. I was literally hydrating. That's why when you said something, I was silent for a bit. I was drinking my water. So far, I think it is fine, and yeah, I can even feel my throat a little bit better now. It was getting dry indeed, but here we are fine. At now, the very least. So yeah, it was indeed quite a useful thing to drink. But yeah. So far, I don't know. One of the few problems I will certainly say of talking about so many things is I already don't know what we truly talk about. So I guess a quick rundown will be something along the lines of take the human nature. I don't know. It gets complicated. I I like how unnecessarily complex it is because of that. That's the worst part of speaking so much that there are so many things there that it ends up being hard to follow properly. What is the original point? In a short note, I guess. Yeah, if I were to really try something along the lines of we are simply talking so far about how interesting it is always to consider how people act and why they act in certain ways and whatnot, and the ways in which also people chooses to react based on those actions. I guess that has been so far the most predominant topic, at least for today. I feel like I really don't think anything else has been said besides some other minor ideas. But yeah, that has been, I guess, what has been going on. Um, but yeah, basically that. Now, continuing on to that very same line, because so far, if my mind isn't failing me, the last thing I said was something along the lines of how weird dogs, anyways, how weird it is to see even the part of people giving up the agency of accepting that their actions have consequences, and something similar to that, not exactly with those terms, the side of, yeah, the side of the choices that you make are truly taken by you, and you can't give up the agency of taking them, even if you believe that you didn't have so much of an influence, because you're simply ignoring the reality of, yeah, to some degree you had an influence over that. To some degree or another, you were somebody who indeed made the choice. After all, most people don't live lives that force them to act in certain ways. And once again, people don't live in such a world in which it is so common for everybody to be forced to do incredibly unnatural and horrible things to other human beings or even to themselves, I guess. It is always, or mostly, like 99% of being alive is a choice. 99% of what happens throughout the day is a choice that somebody had. And it seems weird to realize all of that because, yeah, trying to tie that with something I heard yesterday after streaming, I I finally watched something that I had on my watch later list. This video about Dr. K. Certainly somebody incredibly interesting in that sense. Uh, from I think it is Healthy Gamers, uh, who was doing a podcast about how so many times people, dogs, chooses to blind themselves with obligations and with, yeah, with common things that they do throughout their day, ultimately with their phones and technology in general, in order to not have to deal with that degree of uncomfortableness that exists in the normal life of everybody almost. And watching that, I realized, or not that I realized, I already kind of was thinking about it. It feels weird to see how many people gets affected by that. It is like we truly threw out the possibility of, or yeah, the gift mostly of being capable of choosing by yourself what you wish to do. At some point, it, it became normal to believe that you didn't need to have agency over yourself. Uh, Also, good good evening, Savannah. Yeah, here we are with a little bit of consistency today. Uh, so yeah, good one. Welcome. I guess quick rundown at the very least what is being talked about right now. Uh, Actions and the capacity of choosing, I guess. But yeah, that has been so far what has been the main idea. Nothing really exotic. Now continuing, I was on the line of, it seems kind of weird to realize how much people in general gives up the responsibility or the possibility in general of choosing for themselves. It is like, I don't know. There is always this concept of your inner child and whatnot. If I had to be real, my inner child would feel incredibly distressed over the concept of adults choose to not choose in life. Like, out of nowhere, it makes sense, that sentence. And it seems to be okay to live in such a world, even that it seems to be fine to not have people doing what feels good, not just in the present, in the instantaneous moment of extreme, extremely dopaministic reward, let's say, but rather the whole sea of being alive, what feels good and what is a good action, what is a good choice. It seems okay to say that people chose to truly not think for themselves anymore. And I don't know, it is always that thing of nature is always, or reality is always more weird than fiction, or yeah, weirder than fiction. But there is a point in which it stops feeling simply like something weird and it becomes rather that thing of why does people even decide to act that way? Like, I truly don't get how is it that we even have it so normalized? Because that is the worst part of, yeah, of everything, that it seems so such a normal thing out of nowhere to have so many of those travels existing, and it isn't like nobody can deal with them, because that is the point. You, you can enjoy being alive out of nowhere. You can gain agency over what you do and what you don't do. It doesn't need to be such an automated life, and go from the first pleasurable thing to the next one. I mean, I I even remember something that also stuck with me from what I saw at that time was this idea of nowadays we live even in the realm of videos and whatnot, we don't have any more information given to you for the sake of showcasing you something interesting that they think is interesting without any other filter, let's say. Out of nowhere, it became an algorithm which preys on the idea of you don't even need to think if it is interesting or not. You don't even need to be convinced if it is interesting or not, because the other side should be fully responsible of always showcasing you and making you think how amazing this one thing is, and this one discovery might be on your life and whatnot. And it is quite a grim, at the very least, from my perspective, to see how many people really give up those chances of and showing anything in general. It doesn't even need to be just one kind of area. It is the whole business of entertainment nowadays that works like that. And I don't know. I don't simply want to make the final point of, wow, that's why it is so nice to be here. Yeah, it is amazing to be here, but it isn't simply just because of that. It is quite surprising even to think that something like this would to any degree work, let's say, because you wouldn't expect people who has so many possibilities of choosing once again the most instantaneous kind of rewards to choose to be here instead of scrolling yet again endlessly until their brains can't feel anything else. It is from that side that it is surprisingly good, but that is kind of obvious, and that is kind of an impolite thing. It is like the side of always whoever wishes to do any kind of the content creation who doesn't aggressively engage in the art of, yeah, I will bait people literally into staying just because they don't have to think. While they consume what I am making, they don't have to think. I will constantly keep saying, yeah, you know what, this is the best thing. This is amazing. This is surprising. This is such an entertaining thing. And this is such a wonderful thing. No, nobody. at the very least from the people that I know in general, really tries to go for something like that. And it feels nice to see how good it is that not so many, at the very least from the circles that I find myself to be in, do something like that. And the final point is, in that sense, the real final point of how amazing it is that people still choose to study is that it always is painted like the what is lost already, but quite the opposite, I would say. Like every single time, any single individual chooses to do something out of the ordinary, it is already a wonderful thing because I I I don't know how much it will truly be that these people are going to choose something that isn't going to be yet again out of the ordinary dogs. There is a point in which there are no more things outside of what is the norm that you can choose, and it is that choice that people has to make when they reach that point that seems so intriguing because after all, let's say it like this. A proper example would be something along the lines of you have done the best throughout the day to ignore your phone, to ignore, yeah, at the most instantaneous type of engagement that you have. But you're already tired, you have already done every single other thing, and your phone rings, let's say, and it is in that moment that you are presented with either the possibility of picking it up and seeing who is it and why is it making sound, or somehow defying that first impulse that presents on you and still trying to check later on when you're not so engaged in that. It is those things that seem interesting, and it is like, yeah, I, I I do believe it is quite a wonderful thing in that sense to be here because it shows that people once again hasn't given up completely, and I don't know, it always is quite a wonderful side to realize how much things are not so bad, let's say, but I don't know. On the other hand, I will be real. Too much positivity is also quite intoxicating. Not because, wow, life is good, that's bad. No, it is rather because there might be a lot of suffering that I can't consider so far right now. After all, I only know what I know, and I can't bring up what I have no idea of into the table. So perhaps yet again submerging into that side of, yeah, and not only that happens, there is also this other side of people who doesn't live inside of the norm, let's say, but who still have quite an interesting existence. That side is also good to consider because of these plethora of reasons, and out of those areas are always good to watch over. I feel like I don't truly know sometimes. It's just like a sea of ideas that presents itself, I guess. But yeah, now, before I continue with anything else, because I think that is kind of the finish line of that idea, at the least for now, um, I also wanted to leave this one idea here. I Because personally, it is something that I will have to be thinking on for quite a while, and that is the algorithm itself is also quite influential on everybody who is part of that. In, in any kind of platform, no matter if it is an algorithm or an artificial intelligence choosing what you're watching, it is something influential made in order to keep you engaged, obviously. And something that flies by most of people is also how much of the algorithm influences your decisions later on. and how much of that also, in the end, alters your personality. And you never truly know if what you chose up to this point was truly your own decision or something that was, let's say, expected. And that is what feels kind of weird because, in my sense, it is like my algorithm might as well be very aligned with what happens here almost every single day, or I try to keep it like that, and that's what seems weird. To think that sometimes maybe what you're doing isn't really what you wish to do, but at the same time, what is it that somebody, or what is it that oneself wishes to do that we can call worth it? And why would that be considered better than this thing that we chose to do right now? Something along those lines, I guess. But anyways, I need to drink water. Give me a second. Thank you. Also, I think you can hear them. I chose to shut up in the best moment out of nowhere. My dogs started barking like crazy. Let's give them a second so that they can calm down, I guess. Okay, that it is fine. Ah, I don't know. That was quite improperly timed out of nowhere. Like, ah, shut up just when they started to bark like crazy. And they didn't stop really, but yeah, they didn't stop. Anyways, and I don't know. I guess I want to talk, but I also get lost on what I am saying when they are making so much noise. Like, yeah, please excuse my dogs. Is that it? Did they finally shut up? Yeah, okay. Continuing now onto something different. I don't even remember where did I hear something like this. I I remember hearing somebody complain about this idea of they feel like they are multitasking more than anything else lately, and they are not truly engaging in any kind of activity that they can truly say is worth it of their time, because that is also how we have accustomed ourselves to live. And to a certain extent, I feel like it is kind of true. I, I I say that it is true because certainly it is something that I can see happens even on my own life. That it is quite weird to be doing so many things at the same time. I mean, after all, yeah, from it feels weird to say it, but it ends up being the reality of being here on this side on a very meta analysis. As somebody who decided to go live, let's say, you have the possibility always of having chat and somebody saying something out of nowhere that might even go completely outside of your expectations. You have always that instantaneous feedback about what you're doing compared to, for example, the older ways in which all of this content was made, in which people engaged only with the finished product, not with this. You literally have the possibility in this case of saying what For example, what are you talking about? It makes no sense. You should stop talking about this thing. Why don't you go better into this one other topic? I don't care about what you're talking about here because you make literally no sense, and what you are proposing is incredibly incomprehensible just because you don't know what you're talking about. You can do that, and it is fine to do that, and it is even to a certain degree, I guess, expected of you to do that as somebody who is viewing. But it is certainly a reality that we will live in such a world. I mean, after all, if that wasn't the truth, we would not be here today. But at the same time, it isn't like multitasking is truly something that negative. I always say it that the possibility of doing multiple things is quite an enjoyable one. I I would remember, yeah, one of the few things that I have had still stuck in my mind after so much time is this whole idea of I wish to do things, but I can't break myself apart in order to do them, and I don't feel right when I am doing something half-heartedly. Let's say I wish to do stuff with the 100% of my attention only, and at the same time, it is fully understandable. After all, nobody truly wishes to do something half-heartedly, as they would say. Yeah, I lack a better term. Sorry, I lack a better term. Nobody wishes to do things without so much energy. Let's say people simply end up doing them when they don't realize they are acting in such a way. I guess, but it makes sense. What is that proposition itself? But at the same time, what is I feel like being lost in the sea of ideas is so much that side of it is fine that you want to do something that you want to do, no matter how many things you want to do all of them wholeheartedly. It is understandable until that point, but what gets missed is, and you can do all of them at the same time as long as you keep yourself centered on one at a time, even if you're quote unquote doing them at the same time, it isn't a real impossibility for you to also withdraw onto 0.1 FPS. I got kind of scared. Anyways, I got incredibly scared for a second. My god. Anyways, continuing. It is always a possibility to talk about stuff, and it is always a possibility to do things completely with your whole attention onto them because you can move from one thing onto the other, and I don't know. I feel like even to a certain degree, it has been instilled on people this fear of, yeah, you shouldn't try to do so many things because out of nowhere it is bad to wish to be multitasking. You're killing yourself if you are multitasking. Like being real, being honest. It makes sense to say that to somebody else. It is understandable to give somebody that concept. Like, do you accept that they shouldn't be trying to do anything? I don't feel like it. It is understandable to out of nowhere almost handicap other people just because you don't feel like you need to be like that. Like I don't know. It feels weird. I always considering those things from different perspectives. It is like those conclusions that end up not being so understandable even to me, I guess, because yeah, basically that out of nowhere it is like truly it makes sense to tell them, yeah, you know what, you should you should not even try to do anything. You should not even try to be existing in nowadays society and doing what everybody else is doing. You should be worried about what you chose to do, like everybody else chose to do it, and you should almost repent over your ways. Like out of nowhere, the narrative becomes one in which it is fine to torture people because they are not doing exactly that one thing that you wish them to do, that one very particular thing. I guess so. I can't really get that side of thinking. I don't. It kind of escapes my mind, but yeah, it always is interesting. I guess. Also, I already mentioned that before, but it is the second time in a row that we hit 0. In this case, zero point 0.8 FPS. I am getting worried now for real. Uh, I haven't even been streaming that long, but what's going on? Twitch, what's your problem, my brother? Uh, yeah, I literally don't have anything open. That I shouldn't have open. I feel like there shouldn't be any reason for this to work so incredibly well. Anyways, I guess completely anyways. If it doesn't crash, then we keep going, I guess. Also, yeah, I should have said it before. I am kind of lacking some food. I should have eaten before, but sometimes it takes too much energy to to eat something. So maybe when I take a break, I will go with something instead of passing out here. I can already feel it like I am kind of empty brained because I didn't eat anything before coming here. So yeah, perhaps that will be a part of me taking a break in the future, like in the next 20 minutes or so. But yeah, so far we're fine, but not without me drinking something. So yeah, let me drink water. After that, I continue. Thank you. Okay, that's that. Now I wanted to bring up something, but I don't even remember their name. So before making a mistake that can be avoided, let me check. I I was going to mention I watched this one thing from these people. I don't know their names. Let me see. I think it was Foucault versus. Yeah, okay. That was it. Here, I remember watching this. I, I, I think it was also yesterday. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't yesterday. No, yeah, it was throughout yesterday and the day before yesterday, the Sunday, Monday. I Yeah, Monday, and watching that video was quite an interesting one. I mentioned this other one that I watched of the Dr. K. That was quite a reflective analysis on a lot of stuff and quite an insightful one. But this one wasn't that useful. I feel like I watched a discussion that happened on I don't even know really what was the point. That is kind of the worst side of this, or that is the biggest concern. I watched the discussion that Foucault, and I already watched the name. I literally searched for the name. What was his name? His name. Sorry, I have a incredibly bad short-term memory. Foucault versus Chomsky. That debate I watched, and it was incredibly interesting to one extent. Certainly, it feels good to hear people who are capable of discussing stuff honestly, uh, and without holding themselves back in terms of intellect and such. It is otherwise quite a wonderful thing, even to have the possibility of watching that. After all, yeah, it isn't that common to observe different debates and discussions that happen. It is, to a certain extent, it feels very much like when you're watching, or not watching, when you're reading uh, a book in which two different characters of really intense heights of knowledge decided to discuss something. That's a wonderful thing. That is what happens on that discussion also, because they are both. I consider them philosophists. I don't even remember which area is it that they are. I think they are epistemologists. I think it is, and they were quite interesting. But the problem is, as I said before, I don't even know what is really the point of what was the discussion. I I kept I keep thinking about it because it was quite an interesting observation to make. It is like throughout time I have discovered, let's say like this, throughout time I have discovered that there is a lot of information open available to people that seems to be quite substantially influential on the way in which you live, not because it truly alters you in negative ways, but rather because it gives you tools to understand the world in which you are situated better. And I feel like this discussion was rather a quick rundown on a lot of those ideas more than anything else. That is why it feels so weird to think about people who have so much potential having such a type of discussion and really not saying anything. It is like it wasn't even a point that was simply being made between them. It was a real debate that they wanted to have. I remember, for example, also something that I heard before was this interesting discussion that happened. I think it was between a neuropsychologist and a cognitive behavioral therapist. That one was, for example, something incredibly amazing to also observe because that one contained inside of it a lot of technical terms that pertained to their areas, and they didn't hold back just because they had people watching over what they were talking about. It was rather a wonderful experience to get to, yeah, to watch the fully direct confrontation happen of ideas. The very same thing happens here, but at the same time, in this case, it didn't really have a point. It didn't really lead to any kind of new conclusions, even if what they were discussing once again was something that both of them had an interest on discussing. It was like sometimes that is what I have discovered so far, or what I have learned. Let's say, uh, unknowingly enough, so many times what we end up doing isn't really anything new. We are simply going, let's say, on loops talking about the same stuff over and over and over because it is necessary to do it, because we don't even know about those things ourselves, despite how incredibly easy it is to learn about those ideas. It is like, I mean, to a certain extent, probably for whoever already went to the whole educational system, it would be quite meaningless to repeat the whole journey once again now, because you already know what you know and you already even passed, so it shouldn't be a requirement for you to do it again. It shouldn't be anything that you gain from doing it, but it certainly is a, I feel like, commonality to see a lot of times this behavior being repeated, which we encourage even people to deal time and time again with the very same things. And not in order to truly gain anything, it is like, I feel like we fear not fully knowing stuff. And not that I feel like, wow, I have made that discovery. No, it is part of the nature of why people feel fears stuff, because the the amount of afraidness, let's say, that you feel about things is certainly the uncomfortableness brought to you by the unknown. And I even, in that very same sense, for example, I even remember the analysis that somebody like Freud executed on the idea itself of what is considered unknown. And it is that thing that you believe you should know, that you should have already in your head, that you can't in any correct way picture out and be capable of identifying properly, so that everybody else can also get what you are talking about, let's say. It always is interesting to realize that there is such a degree of fear in what should be known to you, but isn't still. And there is always that degree of, I I can't even understand why people seems to be so, I feel like, inclined towards that side of, yeah, you know what, we should yet again repeat the very same things that already happened and not really do anything useful. And I don't even mean it for ourselves. I wish it wasn't that people were doing that it wasn't worth it for them, because obviously that is bad, but that is kind of the worst side of this whole discussion, that people does a lot of things that they find a lot of benefit from, but that in the end should be quite obvious. Like, I don't know, I think one of the most obvious examples is something along the lines of, yeah, you know what, you should sleep properly. And people needs to experience feeling bad and being sleep deprived in order to understand how negative it is to not sleep properly. Do we really need to go to that extent? Like, I feel like somehow we have failed, or we are still failing in conveying the necessity of some of those areas of existence, I guess. And I don't really, yeah, I don't really understand how it happens that we keep having all of those events happening so much throughout time, but they certainly do occur. And I guess it is an enjoyable thing to behold how all of them unfold, I guess. And simply watching them becomes quite an interesting thing, because there is always also that possible opportunity of solving those problems once and for all, let's say. You never know if somebody is finally be capable of coming up with a proper answer to the problem of, yeah, if this is truly to be considered an annoyance to the human race, let's say, Can't there be a solution for this? Maybe. But if nobody even tries to consider what is the problem, then it makes sense, I believe, that it will be impossible to reach that conclusion, no? So, I guess being in that endeavor of observing is quite a interesting task at the very least. Perhaps observing, yeah, having the possibility of being the observers of those who end up bringing into this world those answers is quite wonderful. I mean, that is kind of sadly, I feel like we have lost a little bit that possibility. Nowadays, we don't even have that many big figures in any kind of space. I am quite, yeah, I don't wish to say it because on one hand it doesn't really feel true, but on the other side it is the complete reality that it is quite sad to realize that out of nowhere we don't even know the name of those who are making so many advances in so many areas. Like we all know people like I already said it before. Somebody like Freud, somebody like Aristotle, somebody like Bill Gates, somebody like I guess perhaps one of the few examples that we have nowadays might be Elon Musk, perhaps. But I guess somebody like that. The final analysis might be like that. People who are influential, not because they had a big name and just that, but rather because they made incredible advancements in their fields. And we don't have that anymore, and we have lost the capacity of recognizing those who have given so many tools to us. And certainly, it isn't an obligation to have them or a necessity to have that. I I don't think we need to live in a world in which everybody is obliged, let's say, to have their names being shown 24/7 to the rest of the world because you were the one who discovered this one tiny thing. Like, yeah, you need to be carrying always the responsibility of having been influential enough to bring into this world something. Even if what you did was good, you need to be um, completely showcased to the rest of the human race, let's say. After all, it is kind of your right to remain in a certain degree of peace. You shouldn't be worrying about people coming to you or not. It, it shouldn't be your main concern. So it makes sense that side, but the rest is kind of annoying. I feel like it's kind of weird always because it shouldn't be like that people should be worrying so much, and it shouldn't be like that people should be finding themselves so troubled by those things. Out of nowhere, it became a problem, and out of nowhere, it became a negative notion to be recognized. But we have certainly kind of, in that sense, in some way or another, gone back in the way of giving proper recognition to people. And it feels sad after all. You don't even know if what we have lost is the possibility of properly giving the respect when it's due, as they will say. Also, we didn't crash, but we are almost there. This is certainly an extreme, I guess. Okay, we're back. Welcome. We didn't fully crash, but it was incredibly close. Anyways, I don't even know what is happening anymore with OBS. Why is it working so bad out of nowhere? I love my updates breaking OBS. I love the OBS team. Yay! As I was saying before continuing, it feels weird to see that. I mean, at the same time, I kind of recognize and understand why it happens though. The presidents, for example, had always been influential figures in the world and can always remain in the mind of those who see them exist, let's say. They are indeed people who gets remembered quite a lot of times, but a lot of other influential figures end up being not taken so importantly, so seriously nowadays, because you can also discover stuff about them that makes them seem not so good, let's say. Like I I I guess one of the worst examples in that sense, one of the best and worst examples was how somebody like, for example, Stephen Hawking was an incredibly influential guy for astrophysics and for understanding a lot of the math that exists behind that realm of knowledge. But at the same time, he died, and one of the things that came out was instantly, oh wow, yeah, this guy was on this other guy, Iceland, doing this thing with this kind of people. Wow, what a nice thing to have. Now everybody needs to bear upon themselves the responsibility of knowing that you're saying good things about this guy, but he also did this other thing, so what are you truly saying? It makes sense out of nowhere that you can't truly give proper credit to anybody because you're being constantly showcased. Not only what they did good, but what they did bad and what they did the worst. Even if that happened, I think that is kind of the problem also. I mean, it's as something certainly that should be discussed properly in the future. The problem of we don't even know when it happened. I I don't know if I should be caring so much about something that happened 30 years ago. Not that it isn't bad, but society was quite different. There are a lot of things that were acceptable. There is a certain degree of language that somebody from 30 years ago will be capable of using that I don't even think about using because of the fear of the consequences that I have. You understand? And there are a lot of things like that keep happening, and it shouldn't be that bad, but it is still something bad and something common. So I I don't know. It is simply a process of thinking and trying to make sense out of that side of life. I feel like of discovering how out of nowhere the nature of things isn't so simple. Despite once again the simpleness itself is still being present. I can recognize. But yeah, I don't know. It's like a long list of things happening kind of all at once that never ends in that sense. But yeah, I don't know. Anyways, how much I had in here? Just an hour and a half. I am not proud of myself, but I'm angry. Angry, sorry, not angry. As in annoyed, hungry with an H and you. So I am, yeah, I'm incredibly hungry. I'm incredibly hungry. I want to eat something. So I, I don't think it is proper to subject anybody to such a weight. Let's say what we are going to do is perhaps if there is somebody, I will raid. If I can find somebody better to say, I will raid. I want to go and eat any kind of food. I like here today. But yeah, also I guess to say it on the record, I want to fix the lag because it wasn't happening in at the very least. The only thing that I can think about that changed between the streams that worked fine and these ones is I changed OBS version. Nothing else changed, so it shouldn't happen that this is lagging so much. Yet it is lagging like hell, so I will have to try and work on that. Also, yeah, it isn't just lagging a little bit, it is lagging my whole PC. I love this program. Uh, I love you, yes. I am deeply in love with how little you function when you needed to function. But anyways, I guess, yeah. That is the story of being here, I guess, that you deal with all of that. And yeah, we are at the very end of this, of today at the very least, so I can say it. The best thing is not that OBS works bad, is that there is no other alternative that works better than OBS. And it is already incredibly bad OBS, so quite quite a nice concept to find out how little anything works in terms of streaming, I guess. But well, the life of those who wish to, I don't know, entertain. I wouldn't have a proper term in that sense, but yeah, something like that, I guess. There it is. Beryl, my beloved, streaming Dark Clouds too. Anyways, I guess for today we are done. I I should have eaten instead of having to leave because I need to eat. I should have eaten before being here, but that was my error, my mistake, my bad technique. Also, yeah, it is taking too long for Twitch to load. I love you, Twitch, but I also have a threshold of patience. I need to go eat something before I die almost. So yeah, let me go eat. Thank you. Goodbye. But I want to eat something. So yeah, as always, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for lurking. Thanks for watching the VOD. Thanks for everything. But we will call it a here because I'm hungry. So yeah, um, you might take it as an epistemic failure. I don't know. Anyways, goodbye, people. Thanks for all. And yeah, keep yourself safe, keep yourself healthy, keep yourself happy. Do what you need to do what you know you have to do, and out of those things, whenever we can, we're getting back here. I don't even know when. Probably tomorrow. It seems like we can finally go back into some sort of a streak. So probably tomorrow. But I will have to see. I I was already expecting to feel better of my throat, and I certainly don't. Not that I feel worse, but rather it just didn't change, and that is quite shocking. So yeah, we will see what happens. Anyways, goodbye, people.